of wood placed near it, those pieces of wood will resemble so many snakes. R. Drinking the milk of a white cow who has a white calf at her feet is auspicious, produces fame, and preserves life. S. The blessings of venerable Brahmins well propitiated have the same effect. There are also some verses in conclusion. Thus have I written in a few words the science of love, after reading the texts of ancient authors, and following the ways of enjoyment mentioned in them. He who is acquainted with the true principles of this science pays regard to Dharma, Artha, Kama, and to his own experiences, as well as to the teachings of others, and does not act simply on the dictates of his own desire. As for the errors in the science of love which I have mentioned in this work, on my own authority as an author, I have, immediately after mentioning them, carefully censured and prohibited them. An act is never looked upon with indulgence for the simple reason that it is authorized by the science, because it ought to be remembered that it is the intention of the science that the rules which it contains should only be acted upon in particular cases. After reading and considering the works of Bhavya and other ancient authors, and thinking over the meaning of the rules given by them, the Kama Sutra was composed, according to the precepts of Holy Writ, for the benefit of the world, by Vatsyayana, while leading the life of a religious student, and wholly engaged in the contemplation of the Deity. This work is not intended to be used merely as an instrument for satisfying our desires. A person, acquainted with the true principles of this science, and who preserves his Dharma, Artha, and Kama, and has regard for the practices of the people, is sure to obtain the mastery over his senses. In short, an intelligent and prudent person, attending to Dharma and Artha, and attending to Kama also, without becoming the slave of his passions, obtains success in everything that he may undertake. Concluding remarks. Thus ends, in 7 parts, the Kama Sutra of Vatsyayana, which might otherwise be called a treatise on men and women, their mutual relationship, and connection with each other. It is a work that should be studied by all, both old and young. The former will find in it real truths, gathered by experience, and already tested by themselves, while the latter will derive the great advantage of learning things which some perhaps may otherwise never learn at all, or which they may only learn when it is too late. Too late, those immortal words of Mirabeau, to profit by the learning. It can also be fairly commended to the student of social science and of humanity, and above all to the student of those early ideas which have gradually filtered down through the sands of time, and which seem to prove that the human nature of today is much the same as the human nature of the long ago. It has been said of Balzac, the great, if not the greatest of French novelists, that he seemed to have inherited a natural and intuitive perception of the feelings of men and women, and has described them with an analysis worthy of a man of science. The author of the present work must have also had a considerable knowledge of the humanities. Many of his remarks are so full of simplicity and truth that they have stood the test of time, and stand out still as clear and true as when they were first written, some 1800 years ago. As a collection of facts, told in plain and simple language, it must be remembered that in those early days there was apparently no idea of embellishing the work, either with a literary style, a flow of language, or a quantity of superfluous padding. The author tells the world what he knows in very concise language, without any attempt to produce an interesting story. From his facts how many novels could be written? Indeed, much of the matter contained in parts 3, 4, 5, and 6 has formed the basis of many of the stories and the tales of past centuries. There will be found in part 7 some curious recipes. Many of them appear to be as primitive as the book itself, but in later works of the same nature these recipes and prescriptions appear to have increased, both as regards quality and quantity. In the Anunga Runga, or the Stage of Love, mentioned at page 5 of the preface in part 1, There are found no less than 33 different subjects for which 130 recipes and prescriptions are given. As the details may be interesting, these subjects are described as follows: 1. For hastening the paroxysm of the woman. 2. For delaying the organs of the man. 3. Aphrodisiacs. 4. For thickening and enlarging the lingam, rendering it sound and strong, hard and lusty. 5. For narrowing and contracting the yoni. 6. For perfuming the yoni. 7. For removing and destroying the hair of the body. 8. For removing the sudden stopping of the monthly ailment. 9. For abating the immoderate appearance of the monthly ailment. 10. For purifying the womb. 11. For causing pregnancy. 12. For preventing miscarriage and other accidents. 13. For ensuring easy labor and ready delivery. 14. For limiting the number of children. 15. For thickening and beautifying the hair. 16. For obtaining a good black color to it. 17. For whitening and bleaching it. 18. For renewing it. 19. For clearing the skin of the face from eruptions that break out and leave black spots upon it. 20. For removing the black color of the epidermis. 21. For enlarging the breasts of women. 22. For raising and hardening pendulous breasts. 23. For giving a fragrance to the skin. 24. For removing the evil savor of perspiration. 25. For anointing the body after bathing. 26. For causing a pleasant smell to the breath. 27. Drugs and charms for the purposes of fascinating, overcoming, and subduing either men or women. 28. Recipes for enabling a woman to attract and preserve her husband's love. 29. Magical collyriums for winning love and friendship. 30. Prescriptions for reducing other persons to submission. 31. Philter pills and other charms. 32. Fascinating incense or fumigation. 33. Magical verses which have the power of fascination. Of the 130 recipes given, many of them are absurd, but not more perhaps than many of the recipes and prescriptions in use in Europe not so very long ago. Love philters, charms, and herbal remedies have been, in early days, as freely used in Europe as in Asia, and doubtless some people believe in them still in many places. And now, one word about the author of the work, the good old sage Vatsyayana. It is much to be regretted that nothing can be discovered about his life, his belongings, and his surroundings. At the end of Part 7 he states that he wrote the work while leading the life of a religious student, probably at Benares, and while wholly engaged in the contemplation of the Deity. He must have arrived at a certain age at that time, for throughout he gives us the benefit of his experience, and of his opinions, and these bear the stamp of age rather than of youth. Indeed, the work could hardly have been written by a young man. In a beautiful verse of the Vedas of the Christians it has been said of the peaceful dead, that they rest from their labours, and that their works do follow them. Yes, indeed, the works of men of genius do follow them, and remain as a lasting treasure. And though there may be disputes and discussions about the immortality of the body or the soul, nobody can deny the immortality of genius, which ever remains as a bright and guiding star to the struggling humanities of succeeding ages. This work, then, which has stood the test of centuries, has placed Vatsyayana among the immortals, and on this and on him no better elegy or eulogy can be written than the following lines: So long as lips shall kiss and eyes shall see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. That is the end of the Kama Sutra by Vatsyayana. Thank you for listening.